insightful discussion.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat pagi. Saya Ahmad Bayu Aryawan, alumni Fakultas Peternakan Univalo Oleo Kendari, Sulawesi Tenggara, peminatan teknologi pengolahan hasil ternak. Yang ingin Bayu tanyakan, kalau penyamak, setiap penyamak itu kan seperti sampaikan Kak Cica, itu kan dia menghasilkan pigmentasi sendiri. Tetapi kalau ditambahkan air panas, karena mimosa kemarin itu harus dia menggunakan air panas. Itu apakah itu bagaimana mempertimbangkan setiap penyamak itu bisa menggunakan air hangat begitu atau tidak? Demikian.
Ini kemauan saya lagi. Jadi ini digunakan yang kemarin bukan untuk melakukan
Mr. Chris Jackson is highly experienced and strategically focused business leader with more than 25 years of experience in business and general management, product optimization, distribution channel management, marketing and change management. He has extensive expertise in specialty chemicals for industrial applications, particularly across the Asia-Pacific and European markets. Throughout his professional career, he has developed strong competencies in strategic alliance, leadership, execution, communication, profit and loss management, and the structuring of distribution channels. And currently, he serves as the director at New Wave Solutions. Yes. So in this morning session, he will present us the topic of environmental compliance.
Kalau berarti penyamak lain itu harus dipertimbangkan ya sensitivitasnya berarti semuanya.
Yes, Mr. Chris, are you ready? Yes. Sorry? You will if you want to. Yes, Mr. Chris, the time is yours.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very clearly.
To start singing a song now or after give the lecture? Selamat pagi.
Selamat.
Apa kabar hari ini? Okay, can have the so this first lecture
ada empatnya bisa.
Can you go back to the first one? Sorry.
Empatnya bisa itu.
Environmental compliance issues from the perspective of the Sustainable Leather Foundation. Okay. Next one, please.
Recording in progress.
So, beside
Tadi pagi dibagi-bagi, Pak.
I think that's a good focal point to start, and it'll permeate all the way through the lecture.
Tambah satu nih.
And, it's a good starting point. The first presentation, what is sustainability, and unpacking ESG. That's environment, social, and governance. And then a little bit dry topic, I want to highlight at least application regulation and legislation. So what is driving the need in the society? You've had one introduction. Thank you. Let me introduce myself. There I am. Di sini di Bali, tinggal di Bali. I've actually now got over 40 years experience. So that was obviously from my CV. So I've got over 40 years experience in the leather industry, working, as was said there, internationally at senior level, much of that time holding senior positions in major chemical suppliers to the sector. So the first 3/4 of my career, 30 years I was working in corporations and big multinationals, selling chemicals to paint industry, adhesive industry as well. So I've got a lot of hands-on experience from that. I hold an MBA from Bradford University. I did my first degree was applied chemistry at Nottingham Trent, and after that I got my first job in the leather industry. The company sponsored me to go to Northampton, Nene, college, as it was then, it's now Northampton University, to do a postgraduate in leather technology. So that was a good grounding. I've also got vast life experience.
Warna bawahnya pakai apa itu, Ci?
As an expatriate in China, Singapore, Thailand, Germany, and now in the best country.
Tapi nggak bisa dikombinasikan kayak penyaman nabatinya I, baru I, A, B, bisa jadi warna bawahan, apakah bisa?
Anyone, I have my own company and I work as a consultant in coordination.
Berarti hanya satu toh, hanya satu saja.
So that's a big thing for me. The first 30 years I was working in multinationals. So I'd say to all you students, I have to give some pointers also to you for the future. You know, don't get trapped into these big multinationals because it's systematic. I found real health and enjoyed my work more when I'm doing my own thing and applying that to my knowledge base to the industry. So now I actually support the leather industry.
Sekalian tanggapan. Kalau kemarin ya motif ya, itu kalau kami pakai Mimosa, dia ada alhamdulillah ada motifnya alami, tapi itu menimbulkan kontaminasi. Itu kemarin saat selesai dari drum running, kemudian dia ada garis-garisnya yang hitam. Itu yang garis hitam itu karena dari besinya. Mungkin apakah penjemurannya tiba-tiba begitu, jadi dia mengalami kontaminasi deh. Itu motif alami tapi kontaminasi. Itu.
So, first of all, thank you. Now I've introduced myself. Thank you for the invitation. Very privileged to be here in UGM, my first time. My istri cantik, she told me that this university is in the top 3 in Indonesia.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So I want to use the time to share my, not just the framework of the presentation, but to share my life experiences to help you because you're starting off, you're 40 years behind me, you're starting off in your career. I'm just ending my career. I'm semi-retired. I'd much rather be sitting on the beach in Bali in a pair of shorts, meditating. But I want to pass on, I want to give pointers to the younger generation, because it's very important, especially the state of the world today. So I'll try and give some pointers throughout, but please focus on critical thought, free thinking.
Bagus, Nana. Ingatkan. I love you.
And have a holistic view of anything. In the last 10 years especially, the last 30 years I was more in the system. Challenge their concept, because that helps you substantiate your position, and then from there you get a more holistic view. Okay, that's my introduction. Can everybody hear me? Can you see me? I have to move up here. I can see me. Okay. Here's one of your lecturers, so challenge him. Here you go. Okay, next slide, a lot of the is going to be a little bit dry, so I'll try and keep you awake by anecdotes and sharing my experience. So I'll give an introduction to SLF. The foundation founded July 2020 by previously the LWG. So she was frustrated with the situation of LWG. She took her knowledge She was trying to apply it. So she left that organization and set up her own foundation. I see you're also very improvement in education of all levels, more sustainable practices in leather manufacturing and production.
Let's see. Ada yang mau?
Three pillars
Mau, Dek?
sustainability.
Sedikit.
Leather value chain. So and product and beyond. Whereas LWG just looks at the tannery. The foundation's objective is to unite all leather value chain stakeholders in ensuring a sustainable future for the industry by shining a spotlight on innovation and best practice. It's important, while also preserving the social and economic well-being in less I've done audits with SLF. We've got a project in Africa, so I've been in Malawi, Burundi. And we also have a project with actually working on at the minute. How is this achieved? So we saw the mission and the values. How is it actually? It's a global foundation for the benefit of all stakeholders. The focus of SLF is to develop certification standards program, education, best practice, cohesive collaboration, and worldwide action. At the heart of the foundation is the SLF Transparency Dashboard. I'll be coming to that in later slides to show you how that works and how powerful a tool it is. And it is the only tool in the leather business. It displays new and existing conformance and performance against those three pillars, against all of them. It covers environmental, social, and governance. So it creates a consumer accessible window of sustainability, performance, alongside fully transparent, detailed data for the value chain partners, better collaboration, better solutions, and better outcomes for the three pillars: people, planet. Okay, this is a big buzzword. Everybody wants to be sustainable. All industries, every entertainment, soccer teams, everybody talks about sustainability and sustaining. But what does it mean? What does sustainability actually mean? Maybe each one of you has their own definition of sustainability. Maybe true, but I think to go back to 1987 to the United Nations Brundtland Commission, Our Common Future. In 1987, as I said, they stated sustainability as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So I think that's quite a fundamental definition. Anybody want to argue with that or you can accept that? You can talk, you can answer. So we saw the United Nations 10 years ago, this Greta Thunberg, this very emotional address where she was the world leaders of the destroying the whole by what they were doing. That's the definition of sustainability. Again, it can be broken down into three principal pillars: environment, So, what are the inherent ESG risks? So if we're looking at an issue like this, we have to do risk analysis, aspect impact. What are the key areas that are involved here? The three pillars there: environmental, social, and governance. So the key areas in environmental, deforestation and biodiversity, of course, energy consumption, water use, specifically in the leather industry and other industrial industries, harmful chemicals. If you're using chemicals in your processing, that's a key risk area. Water pollution. So that's the water that's leaving the factory after the process. Land pollution. So the land that the factory is standing on. I come from the UK, and when I was your age, there were 300 tanneries in the UK. The town of Northampton had 30, 40 tanneries. Now, so in the town where I had my first job, Beverley, in East Yorkshire, there was a massive tanning complex, one of the biggest in Europe, called Hodgson Tanning Corporation. It was an offshoot of that, Hodgson Chemicals. That was my first job. But that land, right in the centre of the town, next to a beautiful cathedral,
Prof. Syahdar.
carried out on it for hundreds of years.
Iya.
So when they
sama Prof. Syahdar. Tanda tangannya. Tekan.
They had to do massive testing and massive reclamation of the land because it had been contaminated by crop oil, all the issues which were not properly controlled in the early days of time. Solid waste, sampah. That's a big issue. I know later on. It's a massive problem. I think the leather industry as a whole is perceived as being a polluting industry. And Indonesia has pretty strict rules on sampah, P3 sampah, and storing it and what to do with it. So they're well provisioned to move forward in that area. And greenhouse gas emissions, climate change. I don't have a view on climate change, but let's leave that there. Social. So if we look at when they do their auditing of all this, they highlight on environmental. They don't do social. So they're very limited in the scope of what they're working with. But social, of course, is important. It's all of us. It's how we're treated. We have to go to earn money in the system. We have to get a job, but we have to be treated correctly in that job. And what through this, we look at the social context, child labour. There's no children working in factories.
Deci, tadi waktu pemaparan, mohon maaf ya, Bayu repeat lagi. Waktu pemaparannya kemarin, waktu Pak Fajar Reza, Pak Fajar Pahlawan itu tidak dijelaskan sertifikasi halal untuk industri kulit ya. Pak Fajar Pahlawan waktu itu sudah dijelaskan ya. Mohon maaf sekedar repeat supaya Bayu tidak canggung sendiri.
In a week, in overtime, a total in a 4-week period, how many holidays they're getting. So all this we assess that they are in line with legal conditions. Corporate social responsibility. So this means how the facility interacts with its environment. Indonesia again is very,
Ya Allah.
very progressive.
Wow.
Also, I did an audit in Malaysia, and they had interactions with the Muslim. Oh, Salam Alaikum, by the way. So they had in Eid, in Bali, all this. They had to help the local community. So it's what provision they have for engaging with the local community. And governance. Unfortunately, we live in a predominantly capitalistic world, so everything is run at the end of the day on money. So even if you have a very good ethical business, if it doesn't make money, it doesn't prosper. So we look here at ethical business practice. So the ethics of the business has to be correct. I think it would be interesting to look at some of the ethical business practice of our leaders and politicians at the minute to see where they're going. Like the Epstein files, all been pushed under the carpet. But there's some key issues there at the top level. We have to address them at the ground
Terima kasih
level.
banyak yang sudah tuliskan 35 di sini.
We should also look upstairs sometimes. For the leather industry, animal welfare, all these points will go into more detail either this morning or this afternoon. But of course, for the leather industry, the input material is a living, breathing, sentient being, as we are. So we have to have responsibility for looking after that animal. And in doing that, it will produce a better raw material because the animal has been healthier in life, so the skin is more valuable to us in the leather industry.
Ada lagi adik-adikku yang sudah belum tanda tangan?
Meaning this is all to do with how the factory is set up, what systems are in place, adequate lighting, access routes, the machineries with the proper guarding, all these issues. Is quite a big area. And then really interesting, process and quality control. This is vital for getting, the problem we have in the leather industry is that we have a substrate that is inherently different. Every single skin is different. So if around the room here, if you take all your skins, they're all different. Some people go more, some people not so, some people brown skin, some people pink skin. You know, so in the leather industry, this is the first problem. We take a inherently different raw material, diverse raw material, and through processing, we try to make it into a standard uniform output. So this is one area where synthetics have a big advantage. Through process and quality control, we can leverage the benefits of the natural.
Ini soalnya pakai diisi semua bahasa Inggris bahasa Indonesia atau kalau ini yang soalnya ditampilkan itu bahasa Inggris bahasa Indonesianya ditulis semua atau? Iya, bahasa Inggris bahasa Indonesianya. Oh, Indonesianya ya. Oke. Nah, siap-siap. Hai, konsentrasi sebelum.
Have to be purely systematic to get a standard quality. Restricted substance and chemical control. Most suppliers now are dealing with RSLs, restricted substance lists, either their own derived list or a list of restricted substances that are imposed upon them by their customers. And chemical control. This is very important. As I said before, one of the big risks is use of harmful chemicals. So the chemical industry has, over the last 20-30 years, certainly cleaned up its act. So the chemical coming into the factory is more environmentally friendly. But then we have to, in the factory, we have to handle it properly with due regard. And occupational health and safety, which runs across all three pillars actually. So, getting back to SLF and the impact areas. 4 main areas here, SFL standards at the center. Then we look at standard setting. So we have a set of standards, but a set of standards is only at a moment in time. The whole point of this is continual improvement. We have to drive for improvement. So those standards are continually being upgraded and made more stricter. So driving improvement through development of robust and credible standards, backed up through, we're going to come to it, this transparency dashboard. Connecting good practice. This is in the whole value chain, alignment with the whole value chain. So supporting harmonization and minimizing duplication of effort across the value chain. So what SLF has tried to do is have one auditing protocol that can be applied in the whole chain. So there's no need to do all these audits for supplier audits, customer audits, ISO audits, all these different ones. Everything is harmonized. So it costs time and effort. And working in line with industry associations and other certification bodies. The third one there, policy advocacy with IPOs. So working with intergovernmental organizations to support and advocate for the leather industry. So this is important. Just talking to Vigo before, one of the major problems we have as an industry is that we're not aligned in a positive way with the influences or the decision makers. We've seen this in the last 20, 30 years. Leather's got a bad name. Synthetics somehow have a positive name. We need to align and to make sure the right message is getting through to the influencers and the decision makers. At SLF, we're working now on a project, as I mentioned before, which is funded by LHCA, which is the Leather and Hides Council of America. So they fund so the tanners, all of their auditing of this protocol is paid by them. So we're working in line with them. They have an interest, of course, in selling their hides, but they're trying to harmonize these values through the leather chain. And one very important one, you're all undergoing your education now. It doesn't stop. When you leave university with your degree or your doctorate, education doesn't stop. And what SLF is aiming approach, I'll come to that in the next slide. On the ground training and support. So it's education. So one of the problems that I've experienced with
Saya bergabung.
I was the auditor that audited and got them all on board. This is what I said. We have to continue to improve and LWG, I don't work very much.
Kemarin batal karena ada satu hal. Ini alhamdulillah on lagi. Iya. Ada urusanmu nggak bisa lah. Nggak bisa kau paksakan.
Because they have
Aizi, mana Aizi? Ya, tadi kamu lewat mana tadi? Samping masjid atau lewat mana tadi? Karena nggak kelihatan tadi. Karena kan tadi ada 3 belokan tadi, ada 2 belokan yang Bayu lihat. Udah Bayu jawab kok di situ. Sama. Enggak, tapi kamu lewat mana tadi? Dari ini berarti lewat masjid, ada lorong-lorong lagi. Kalau setahu Bayu ya, kemarin disaranin Kak Ilham, itu Kak, beloknya kayak lewat SPPG di situ. Ada, lewati. Pekerjanya aja di depan. Ada motor-motornya, mana pakai motornya itu deh. Ya.
It's very hard. Believe me, I know. It's very hard to get the gold medal standard. So the whole industry has been built up of consultants that go in and prepare the tanks. But the whole industry knows. And they have a position of power within the industry. Because SLF is coming in charge of the real so it's accessible. That's what we believe is the path to true sustainability. What LWG do, for example, is make it inaccessible, make it exclusive, and the actual protocol that the tanners go through. There's 600 questions.
Maaf, ada telepon WA group.
What they do in the other questions, if they can't meet those requirements, they fail the audit. Fail it. What SLF do is
mau.
So
Jadi simpan saja, simpan.
if you pass,
Jangan ambil deh, makasih. Dari kasih Mui soalnya, kebetulan Mui sama Bayu lewati ini ya, lewati SPPG ada dibagikan begini. Iya, SPPG terlalu baru di jalan alternatif. Nggak tahu? Hah? Atau mau kau ambil ini? Ya bagi-bagi aja. Daripada sendiri semua. Oke. Apa? Kenapa? Netral. Dipilih karena itu sesuai, tapi Bayu berada di antara itu. Nggak pernah bilang pro MBG itu, nggak pernah. Justru Bayu lebih memilih waktu itu Pak Prabowo nggak Pak Gibran karena MBG. Bayu minat di situ. Bayu pertanyaannya di situ. Bayu minat tapi nggak memikirkan pro kontra, netral. Apa? Minat tapi netral. Antara netral itu artinya apa yang Bayu lihat di situ, apakah dari anggarannya kah atau dari sertifikasinya yang sistem tata kelolanya, di situ Bayu pikir dengan merasa ya terima, tapi tidak kontra, netral Bayu. Artinya Bayu itu lebih menjaga seimbang lah antara produk menjaga menentukan apakah MBG ini bagus atau tidak begitu. Kalau milih iya waktu itu, walaupun Bayu tidak ikut pemilu, tapi kalau MBG-nya terima tapi netralitas. Karena waktu itu Bayu waktu itu kan belum kerja, KTP-nya Bayu masih Sultra waktu itu, mengurusnya juga sudah kelewatan waktu. Bayu yang salah di situ. Tapi dari situ juga Bayu waktu unemployed ya sampai sekarang, masalah KTP itu yang kalau mau bilang masih tanggung begitu kalau menerima kerja deh, kecuali kalau mau diubah lagi. Tapi tetap ini sih keinginan Prabowo begitu kan MBG. Ya begitu. Golput tapi tetap bukan iya itu golput deh, tapi yang memilih Prabowo-nya Bayu pilih lebih ingat ke Prabowo begitu.
We're looking at 33. Very interesting number. 33. So very esoteric. There are 33 areas of impact. 13 of them there are in environmental module.
Paling salam nasional ya, kalau ada proses penambahan salam kebajikan Rahayu langsung Bayu pakai salam nasional. Salam nasional nggak harus dari partai. Merdeka. Serius. Inisiatornya PDIP. Apa? Ada tante keinginan juga selalu ikut kegiatannya PDIP. Kemarin Pandu Negeri juga moderatornya juga jubir PDIP. Apa? Kenapa? Ya kalau kena ini realita ya 90% iya. Kira-kira.
Then we look at environmental management systems, EMS, health and safety, environmental footprint, land use, all the areas we talk about, water use, energy consumption, raw materials, chemicals, machinery, air emissions, effluent treatment, soil contamination, and so on. So those are the 13 areas that are covered in the SLF audit. Social is 9. Permits and licenses. They must be adhering to the law of the land and to the if they do that. Then we look at age of staff wages and tied to the government module.
Responnya deh. Nah, setelah kegiatan ini, Bayu ingin focusing ke masalah pangan di kulit itu, tapi di luar dari itu deh, yang pengulitan itu yang salah satu tahapan itu, yang insya Allah Rizkullah deh, kalau lebih input sudah. Kalau lebih inputnya itu dia outputnya
process control and quality, chemical management,
Bayu nonton game bang. Pakai handphone. Aktif karena record nggak apa-apa. Aman. Bayu record sendiri. Bayu bisa disimpan. Iya. YouTube Bayu. Namanya Bayu itu Bayu Aryawan sih. Iya. Namanya Bayu Aryawan atau Aryawan Bayu. Bayu Aryawan 9832 bang.
So here you see things international in India, also export awards from all these sort of things can be put on there.
Iya bang, Bayu cari dulu. Ah ini, iya. Betul. Pas itu wisuda, kita wisuda online, tapi ramenya nonton di depan itu. Dulu gedung lama, sekarang sudah kayak modern nih. Iya bang. Siap, saja. Sebreaker aja bang. Segera. Gak apa-apa bang. No problem. Terima kasih banyak bang. Tadi apa bertanya tadi? Setelah selesai ini, ya, ini setelah selesai ini, Bayu outputnya, ini salah satu tahapan tahapan pengulitan ini. Di flashing itu yang di Akbar Jaya tadi, di situ Bayu tertarik sama yang namanya lemak. Tapi Rizkullah belum nanti postdoktoral atau apalah. Baik. Kulit. Nah, itu tahapnya. Makanya dengan nih. Kalau ini kulit, nah ini telepon aja deh.
But they didn't know how to propagate that in systems and procedures for an audit condition. So they had nothing.
Lanjut lagi. Jadi dulu sih Bayu tertarik kulit. Itu salah satu dasarnya dari situ. Kulit kan tahu anatominya. Dari definisinya yang Bayu lihat di referensinya untuk S2 by Research itu. Disitulah Bayu ikut kebetulan. Nah, ini kan kulit mau unggas atau telo itu insya Allah beriringan. Dia intinya lebih lanjutan terhadap minyak begitu. Dia lanjutan begitu deh. Tapi kalau untuk sapi itu insya Allah. Tapi untuk sekarang ayam ini masih insya Allah S2 by Research. Sekolah. Begitu ceritanya.
they have to be accredited. Right? So a third party is checking on their credentials. Nobody can't do this.
Tapi di luar dari anak-anak ini adakah yang menjaga kemarin?
Currently undergoing UCAS accreditation for ISO 17065.
Tadi sama Muiz deh. Iya. Muiz. Awalnya Bayu mau naik bus, tapi Muiz mau antar Bayu. Pak Agung, Pak Age, Bayu panggil Pak Age. Pak Agung Gumelar kan namanya, namanya Pak Age. Dari tadi di sana tadi, Bayu kan kenalan begitu. Serius? Kenapa?
The only thing that stays constant in the world is the state of change, and it's accelerating. So, I feel sympathy for the generation that they're going to come into what I've been able to do in my life. But I'm sure you have the tools to deal with it.
Iya dong. Manusiawi ini kasihan. Iya. Iya. Tahu. Iya dong. Pastilah. Namanya saja ini apa? Namanya saja pertama kali sama adik-adik. Apa? Semuanya deh, nggak ada terutama di sini deh. Kalau Bayu, karena ya kembali Bayu sayang semuanya sih, ya. Nah itu makanya. Dinas, siapa lagi? Numa. Singkat-singkat aja ya. Singkat ini deh, biar lebih banyak nama Nurul di sini. Nurul baca nama 2. Jadi panggilnya Numa 2. Oh 3 ya? Nura, Nuko, Numa. Nah ini nama bapaknya, nama kakeknya. Nah itu bukan Bayu tidak tahu itu dek. Mohon maaf sebelumnya, karena kan Bayu tidak tahu mau panggil apa awalnya. Berarti bisa panggil Prof Irsa ya, atau Prof Irsa aja. Apa? Magaman. Atur. Nisan kita
report that they have to do on their environment.
Out aja panggil out. Bayu beda. Nah ini karena insya Allah S2 by risetnya ke antara UGM atau UNAS ya. Tapi untuk S3-nya Bayu bukan di sini, Bayu bukan juga di UGM. di UHO karena lebih fokus di manajemen pendidikan karena Bayu nanti lebih ke bidang penyuluhan pertanian deh. Insya Allah targetnya sih dosen di Polbangtan Goa, Kabupaten Bone, di UNAS juga, di UNAS, di UHO, dulu di pasca tahun 2020, 2021 awal 2021. Tapi pindah karena nomenklaturnya linear, fakultasnya begitu, prodinya lah. Dulu prodinya alumni Unhas semua deh. Dulu kak prodinya alumni Unhas, namanya Prof Amrullah Pagala deh. Sekarang wadah ini. Tahu Pak Wicak, iya Pak Cakso, kita nama orang tua deh, kita nama orang tua. Kita nama orang tua itu, enggak, oh ya. Waktu magang, beliau waktu itu S2, MBC, iya.
Mana tahu kenalannya?
Tahu. Pernah dulu ikut kegiatannya Himsena, moderator. Buku itu. Bu panggilnya buku. Buku. Iya, apa singkatan? Iya. Itulah. Karena Bayu sedikit tambahan. Karena namanya beliau ini kan juga ada yang sama. Ada dosen guru besar, tapi beliau di teknologi patahnya UB. Namanya Prof Irfan Junaid. Itu makanya Bayu pikirnya nggak tahu mau panggil nama apa kan. Bayu juga takutnya nanti menyinggung sampai nama belakang apa segala macam begitu. Jadi begini intinya, kalau Bayu panggil Prof Irsa boleh singkat atau Prof Irsa saja boleh ya, supaya tidak supaya Bayu tidak bingung begitu. Itu alasannya sebenarnya itu. Bayu punya alasan itu deh. Kenapa Bayu ya?
They have to understand this. If they don't understand them, how they can take any mitigating action and how they can mitigate against this without creating additional unintended consequences. This makes understanding traceability. How did I do on time? Any questions? I can only stand up for so much time.
Well, you also giving out the presentation actually. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chris Jacqueline, for your presentation. But even though we don't have the time for here the regulations and everything that you were sharing about, but for now, we open the discussion. Is there any questions from the participant? Okay.
Okay, check. Thank you for your excellent presentation, Mr. Chris Edlin.
Nobody clapped for my presentation. Aren't you supposed to show appreciation? Nobody clapped.
Okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Anir Rusman. I'm student in this university, Universitas Gadjah Mada. So I have a question. What is more sustainable, do you think, between chrome leather product and vegetable leather product in leather industry, based your experience? Thank you.
Good question.
Maaf, orang tuamu nelpon. Orang
Very
tuamu,
good question.
bapak, ibu, my mother, my father.
My time in the leather industry has seen basically everything. If you wanted to make a soft leather, it was chrome tanned, right? And as I worked through the industry, there was a lot of initiatives to make alternative method tanning, to make
Saya tahu mungkin kalian bingung atau kalian tersinggung atas apa yang Bayu sampaikan, Bayu panggil.
You can never get the same quality of leather without using chrome.
Itu makanya
You can do
sampai kalau ada yang keberatan atau apa.
But if you're working on thick cow hides, you have a problem of penetration, and to make a really soft leather is very difficult. If I look at vegetable tanning, I think this is an area that could be potentially researched more into in combination. I know a lot of Indian tanneries make garment leather from fully vegged sheep and goat skin and then take it to subsequent chrome tanning. For me, I would say the preferred method is to use a certain amount of chrome, a low chrome tannage, and then use alternative. So if you can have a system where you use 95, 99% of the chrome and it is fixed in the leather, it's not tensing in the leather, it doesn't go out in the water, that's the best possible system, and there are ways to do that. So I would say, to answer your question, chrome tanning I think is still appropriate because of environmental issues, it needs to be optimized. Vegetable tanning is a very big potential area where further work can be
And maybe we got the second question in the chat box from Zahra Shaira. She's asking what is basic criteria for leather industries if they want to get the LVG certification. As we know, LVG appears to be mandatory for the buyer.
That's a very difficult question for me to answer, because as I mentioned in my presentation, it's fundamentally wrong that it is mandatory. The whole industry knows that. So the way that the protocol is set up, you can fail the audit just not getting answering one of 600 questions. So it is fundamentally fair to answer the question. What is the question? How to meet the requirements. At the minute, basically a tannery has to employ a consultant because it's so complex. There's so many policy documents, so much evidence of where the raw materials coming from, so much evidence of the suppliers, so much looking at the chemicals. But basically, it is a massive job, and LWG have forced the tanneries to use consultants. That's good business. But ultimately, it's not the way to drive ESG performance. If you want to drive ESG performance, you look at SNF. I understand that brands and customers are asking for LWG. And that's something that hopefully over time we see some things happening over time. Maybe they say you can do LWG or SAF, or the credibility gap that LWG may have will start to bite them in the bottom and come home to roost, right? Because they have big problems. And they're introducing a new standard later this year, which will be very interesting to see. So that's my, I hope I answered that. Whose question was that?
Thank you so much. So for Aura, is it clear for the answer? Oh, actually we could, okay, yes, the answer is clear for Aura. And we got the third questions from Eman Khaled. He asking which substance carry highest risk if human get exposed to?
In relation to what? I think very high risk is the so-called corona vaccination that was mandated. So a lot of this is a little bit esoteric. If you look at specifically chemical risks, the main chemical risk, chromium-6 is perceived as a risk. We have mercury, lead, various metals that are involved in pigments and dyestuffs. So those are the sort of chemicals that are the highest risk. And the chemical industry has been regulated to change their compositions possibly adversely affect the actual effect on the leather, but to conform to environmental issues, they have to replace certain chemicals, formaldehyde, phthalates, and the list goes on. But to say what is the most dangerous, how long is a piece of string? It's a string. It's hard to say that, but
Okay, so I guess there's a lot of substances which very dangerous.
If you look at a restricted substance list, you see the parameters that have to be met. That's a good answer to that question.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Mr. Chris. So for Eman, I think the answer is split off. Okay, any more questions? Okay.
Animal science. So my question is, how does Indonesia authentic industry should evaluate and improve for a long term in terms of ESG practices and to achieve the long term sustainability? I would like to hear from you if it's okay to if you want to compare it to the more developed global leather industry. Thank you.
Okay, very good question. I think if you look at the social aspect, I think Indonesia does very well already because of the laws and regulations that are in place from the government. I think in environmental, they've got still a long way to go. They may have received gold medals. I may have audited them, but those figures may not actually represent the true figures of what is So I think they need to become a little bit more professional in how they deal with these issues and really take it seriously. Some of them do, others are, I've got a business to run, I can't So it has to be driven by the top management. They have to be involved. And it's better to have a team in place with specific people dealing with specific areas like sampling, water, wastewater. Again, I think housekeeping is a big issue in the factories. It's an area where they shouldn't just be looking to have the tannery look good when the auditors are there. It should be something that is a habit, it's built in. You can see the benefits of that. And I see some of the tanneries, especially the older ones, shaking their head. Others like BP ASA, they have the systems in place, they have it all in good order. So I think it's as a whole, and you see this in all countries. Indonesia's not on its own. Luckily, I mean, I've gone into tanneries in USA, and from being absolutely against that to being what's going on in here? This is a mess, right? So it's not really fundamental. I think Indonesia has to take a more proactive view of it. But I think it's the individual factory, and it's the leadership from the business owners and leaders that has to drive it. It shouldn't be a manager's responsibility. It has to be hands-on, directed from the top of the factories. Did that answer your question?
Thank you so much for the clear explanation, sir.
Okay, thank you for the active participation from all the participants. So yeah, I think it's time to go to the next session because we still have the Dr. Douglas. I think we have him in the Zoom meeting right now. Can you hear my voice, Dr. Douglas?
Yes. Good morning.
Yeah, how are you, Dr. Douglas?
I am fine. In Kenya, it's a bit early in the morning. It's just before 6.
Yes, it's nice to hear from you. So let me introduce Dr. Douglas to you guys. So Dr. Douglas is a senior lecturer at Dedan Kimathi University of Technology, Kenya. He obtained his PhD in chemistry from Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University, South Africa, and later conducted postdoctoral research at Stellenbosch University. His area of expertise includes inorganic and organometallic chemistry, with research interests focusing on inorganic catalysis, organometallics, material science, tannery wastewater treatment, chromium biosubstrate, and sustainable leather technologies. He has also actively contributed to research and development in the leather sector through collaboration with the Africa Leather and Leather Products Institute. And for today, Dr. Douglas will deliver a presentation entitled Chemical Safety, SDS Handling, and Emergency Responses. So for Dr. Douglas, are you ready for sharing your presentations?
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for the introduction. I think you have done it better than I have done it. And also I've been involved in the leather industry in Kenya, and the topic that you had given to me, I think it is timely, because the about issues of chemical safety, and as we know,
karena ada masjidnya itu bersatu sama SKM.
You can't do away without chemicals, but then how do we use chemicals responsibly? So let me share my slides. I will switch off the camera so that I can be able to.
Masih lama jam 11.25. Ini juga GM. Nanti kalau sudah second session baru. Iya itulah WIP.
Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah,
takutnya berjalan ini anunya. Oke, kadang lagi charge juga. Oh, oke, charge.
Or is it for the connection?
Apa? Pemahaman apa? Jadi kalau orang yang pakai alat bantu suara,
nggak bisa kalau pakai alat bantu suara baru sholat deh. Bayu itu deh nggak pernah pakai ini.
Excuse me, Dr. Douglas. For all the participants, we will wait a second. Maybe Dr. Douglas have bad connections.
Ya dek.
Sorry for that. I think I have a glitch on my side. And can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you right now.
On my side, let me see if I'm able to share my window for the.
For the presentation, do you want us to share it or?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you see it? Can you see the presentation now?
Yes, we can see right now.
Di mana?
Okay. Sorry for that, and I know technology sometimes can behave in a way that you did not anticipate. Okay. Is it okay now? I know once you go to the presentation mode, you miss the.
Amin, mohon doa untuk kalian juga.
Is it okay now?
Yes, we can
Di
see.
mata HP khususnya juga dan ini Mas juga.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about chemical safety, SDS handling, and emergency responses. As you have been introduced, and one thing I will talk about is that in the leather industry, when we are manufacturing the leather, we have to use a number of chemicals, and I have given a couple of chemicals there from sulfuric acid, chromium salts, fat triggers, and finishing resins. So, and then when it comes to manufacturing of the leather products, again, you can see that there are a number of chemicals that are in use. As I had said earlier, is that we cannot do away with chemicals in the leather industry, but how can we use or handle these chemicals in a more responsible way to avoid damage to the environment? When we talk about chemical safety, of course, this has to do with how we are going to use the chemicals in the industry to prevent injuries, illness, and also environmental exposure. Of course, safe handling is very important. whether in the use, in the disposal, in the storage, and all that. And as Chris had said, of course, the environment is very important. And at the end of the day, we have to be sustainable so that we can also have the industry, have the environment preserved for our future generations. So we should not pollute it to an extent that future generations will have a challenge to live. And when you look at the chemicals that are used in the industry, for example, when you talk about the acids, some of them can be very corrosive. Chromium, which you mentioned, somebody has asked a question about which chemicals are very serious. Chromium, if it's oxidized to chromium 6, it's a carcinogen. Chromium 6 is a carcinogen, but chromium 3 that is used in tanning is, I said, some solvents have actually they are not safe from the there's a risk from the rich, which are the bad substances, and of course when it comes to green chemistry, we are moving away from solvents that can have potential harm to safer solvents. Of course, there are many other hazards in the leather industry which come from chemicals. Some of the chemicals are neurotoxins. Some chemicals like mercury, copper, and other also dyes. Well, they are not really good to our health and environment. So, in the industry, or even in our laboratories, when we are working with leather, there are a number of risks. For example, when the chemicals come into contact with your skin, if you inhale chemicals, if you splash chemicals on your surface, on your skin, and so many other issues. For example, injuries to the eye, cancer risks from prolonged exposure, and of course, how do you get exposed to chemicals in the work environment? It can be through inhalation, coming in contact with chemicals with your bare hands, not using PPE, ingesting or injection through cut and punctures. And during the working time, of course, during the loading, unloading, transfer of chemicals between containers, you have bought chemicals in huge containers, but when it comes to application, you have to transfer them to smaller containers. If you are not well prepared, you are not using the right PPE, you can come into contact. When you are preparing chemical recipes for tanning or for finishing, of course, transferring chemicals from workplace to storage, adding chemicals to tanks, removing chemical wastes and effluents, washing of chemical containers. There are a number of activities actually that expose an individual working in the industry to chemicals. Let's see what's happening here. This is an old picture I pulled from the internet, and you can see what the gentlemen are doing. They are in a chrome tank. You can see again here, again, there is no PPE. They are standing inside a tanning hut. Look at these ones. They're using their bare hands as they are working on the leather. Again, you can see somebody here touching chrome tank leather. Well, those are a few examples. Again, this is effluent discharge because, of course, it's loaded with the chemical substances from the tannery. Again, you can see here discharging of effluent from a tannery hut. And you can see the person is, they're not having NPP with them. Of course, that one exposes them to chemicals. Now, when it comes to the industry, to make it safer, we have to do safe handling of chemical practices. so that we minimize exposure of employees to chemicals. Of course, there are safe handling practices. You can see I've put a picture on the right-hand side where the person who is doing the transfer of chemicals is well equipped. You have to have the PPEs on. If it's a gloves, they have to be resistant to chemicals. And of course, different chemicals need different gloves. Personal hygiene. When preparing chemical recipes, you have to be very, very careful. You don't add water to acids. There's a whole procedure on how to do that. Training of workers on safe handling of chemicals. Sometimes you can also automate systems. For example, when it comes to dosing of chemicals, instead of doing it manually, you can use automatic systems. When it comes to disposal of chemicals, I know different countries have different regulations, and of course, for example, you have to remove pollutants, chemical pollutants from the tannery before discharging those effluents. Again, follow the regulations. When it comes to storage of chemicals, that's very important. Just there's a photo on the right-hand side where somebody has dumped all the chemicals in one place, and of course, dumping chemicals in one place in the name of storage can be big issues because some chemicals are hazardous. They need to be under lock and key. Others are highly flammable. Others are incompatible. So if you store them together, at the end of the day, you find that they have reacted, corroded bottles and all that. So you have to follow the storage regulations which have been provided. And of course, good housekeeping is very important. There's a buy less policy or approach because sometimes if you need a few kilograms, you don't need to buy a whole ton. It doesn't make sense because one, when if you are going to use the chemical in the long run, it's better if you buy small quantities after they are done. You buy again because in that case you also minimize the risks at your premise. So when it comes to storage, of course, there's a clear guideline, and this we have come across from the chemistry perspective, and it applies to the chemical industry. So for the first thing, segregate incompatible chemicals, use secondary containment for chemicals that can spill, or in case the container ruptures, the chemical does not spill and even go to the environment. Good ventilation where you are keeping chemicals, proper labeling and inventory management, and also emergency access and spill kits should be around so that you are able to contain end spilling and of course first aid and other things. So the diagram here, which I got from ITS, it shows you how to sort them out and how to segregate the chemicals for safer keeping. Of course, we have talked about secondary containment. You can see those tanks out there have been placed. You can have a passive containment. Sometimes when you have primary containers, which are you normally buy chemicals in large quantities, then you can transfer them to smaller bottles or small containers for use. That one keeps that you don't contaminate or you don't expose a whole drum of chemicals to individuals. Then the most important thing is communication, and there are a number of ways of communicating about the chemical hazard, and this one can be found in safety data sheets, and then you from the chemical labels of the bottles or containers. And we are going to use the global harmonized system because it's a universal communication, which when everybody sees it, actually they are able to understand quickly what is
ada anak-anak lain kerja di sini selain kamu.
Hazards and
bosmu ya?
what is needed.
Bosmu
So
senior atau?
The data sheets, and these are very important, and it's a requirement that every
punya senior itu
a safety data sheet because it tells you about the substance itself. So it must tell you the name of the chemical, the hazards that are associated with that particular chemical, safe handling. How can you handle that chemical safely? The storage, the emergency measures in case it is fused, you splash on yourself, in chest. So it will tell you in case of in chest what you have to do. During transport, what has to be done, and the PPE, personal protection equipment that are needed while using that particular chemical. So each chemical you have in your store, you must have SDS, and probably with an old chemical.
Jadi kalau sudah selesai sholat Jumat, kamu kembali lagi
you can download them from the internet.
Ya, maksudnya kan kalau kembali langsung, namanya juga ujian.
Okay, you come to it later on.
Iya.
So when it comes to chemical labeling, of course, there's a standard way. There are labels.
Coba di ruang kelas. Tidak bawa laptop.
And you can see from the diagram here.
Udah laptop sih. Nggak ada lebih dari itu. Charger apa? Di situ punyanya Aram juga. Tabletnya juga disimpan sama chargernya. Semua itu punya Bayu juga. Apa sewakannya ke kesatuan punyanya Bayu.
That one you can understand. It has environmental hazard, corrosive.
Cari jurnal.
Visual labeling is very good, especially.
Ya pintar, karena Bayu kebetulan juga kalau soal jurnal itu Bayu lebih bagus cari yang terkait. Ada yang kalau ada kata kunci PDF di situ.
Chemical, they are able to
sekolah juga
associated with that, and of course then they can internalize what is the proper in that case. For example, when somebody sees a solid bomb, you know that that's a very toxic chemical, and what to do in that. So
bergema
sampai di luar.
Sampai di luar suara.
From one country to another country, people needed to understand generally. So labeling is a way of universal communication. So the global system was brought into force, and it has a specific requirement so that irrespective of classification or where you are coming from, you are able to, once you see that labeling, label or identification on the bottle or on the drum, you are able to quickly understand the communication about that particular substance. Under the global harmonized system, every hazardous chemical label must include 6 mandatory elements. The first one is the product identifier, the supplier information, the signal words, and then the hazard statement, precautionary statement, and the cryptogram. You'll see all those ones as we move on. Probably that's so that it is easier for us. So the identifier is ammonia, then the signal one, if it is dangerous or if it is toxic, so that's the signal one. And then there is the hazard statement, if it is toxic if ingested, then you have been given precautionary statement, and then the supplier information, who is the manufacturer of that chemical, where they can be found and all that. And then you are given the pictogram, which is shows all that. It is danger, it is corrosive, it is flammable, and all that. So this one is, once the person sees this label on the drum or on the container, they understand a lot of things very quickly. And this is a basic requirement for the global harmonized labeling system. Then when it comes to safe handling of chemical, you must train your workers. Of course, for every organization, it's very important to take safety seriously. So you have to train the employees so that they understand when they are dealing with chemicals, what hazards are associated with these chemicals, and how to deal with them. And of course, they have to know which chemicals have to be under lock and key, and in case of an emergency, what they are going to do. When you have trained staff on safe handling of chemicals and storage, of course, you have minimized risks, and also they become environmentally conscious. We can't dispose containers like that. We can't just release effluent into the environment, and that's a very, very important step in the industry. The other thing is you have to provide, or the employees have to know what kind of personal protective equipment is needed as they are working in the industry. Of course, from the helmets, eye washing, and emergency showers. What happens if somebody splashes the chemicals in the factory? Do they have somewhere where they can wash themselves? They can wash their eyes and all that. If they're going to touch chemicals, do you have chemical resistant gloves? Do you have safety boots, respirator or masks, and so forth? So in the industry, if they are aware, then also the persons or the in charge, the supervisors should provide the required safety gear so that the workers are protected. Then the safe handling of chemicals is a very huge area. I think I've mentioned about how you are going to mix your chemicals, how you are going to safely keep your chemicals. In case of the spill, what you are going to do, waste disposal, clean up and recovery. But I'll come to that later on. In the area where you have stored chemicals or during the use of chemicals in the industry, you should have very good ventilation. Sometimes you must have engineering controls. Of course, all this is to make sure that people are not exposed into various chemicals, because we talked about inhalation, we talked about spilling and all that. A number of engineering controls that have been put in place is exhaust ventilation. You can also have fume extraction systems, and you can also have closed chemical transfer system. We talked about where people or employees come into contact with chemicals during chemical transfer. If you can be able to automate the system or use a closed system so that they don't come into contact with the chemicals, again, you make your workplace safer, you minimize contact, and in that case, you don't expose people to hazardous chemicals. Again, you can do air quality monitoring, for example, H2S and ammonia and volatile organic compounds and dust. This is very important so that you can, within your premise, you see whether the levels are exceeding the permitted levels, especially H2S and ammonia. Even this H2S is very serious because especially in the learning drums or in the waste disposal area, if the people are exposed to H2S, it's very, very toxic and corrosive. So, for example, this is a closed chemical transfer system. You can see the primary container, and there's a pump and the secondary container where you can safely transfer chemicals before use. This gas H2S detector, it can be somewhere within the premise. It can be able to peep when the safe limits have been exceeded. You can see here, this is a dry saving machine with an exhaustion system so that people don't get exposed to excess dust, and then the dust can be collected and safely disposed. A spraying put with the extraction system. Again, this one makes sure that the operator and also the environment within the factory is safe. So all these are engineering controls, and they are very important because at the end of the day, they minimize exposure of employees to chemicals. Then when it comes to fire and explosion, this is a very serious issue because we have volatile organic compounds or highly flammable compounds. How are you going to deal with them? Of course, on the right hand side here, you have to be prepared to fight the fire, but before that, you must have a safer storage where you are able to keep your chemicals safe so that they don't ignite, and by so doing you have minimized the risks. So you should have proper storage for flammables. There are cabinets that are meant for storage of those flammable chemicals, which we normally use in our tanneries. You can also have smoke detectors in case they fire, that then they can trigger alarms. And of course, you can have also explosion-proof cabinets, so that in case there's a problem, it's contained in that cabinet. So, of course, these chemicals, we can't avoid them, but we have to know how to live with them and use them safely. Now, sometimes things go wrong in the tannery. You have your chemicals there. People have been working, and maybe one of these days something goes wrong. Then we must have emergency procedures or emergency responses in place. Of course, you can have a chemical spilling, and when it spills, what are you supposed to do? Do you have first aid measures when something has gone wrong? Do you have evacuation plans? Do employees understand in case of an emergency, this is what we have to do? We have talked about, when we talked about PPE, we talked about the emergency showers and eye wash stations, which are very important. If I have splashed, I was not putting on the eye shield, or and then I've splashed chemicals into my eyes. What do I do? And then finally, because an emergency has occurred, we have to report the incident. I'll just take you through that. Many of our time we have gas release. For example, we have talked about H2S and ammonia. What are you supposed to do? In that case, you have to evacuate and stay upwind, away from the direction of wind is blowing, so that you don't continue inhaling. And then you can ask for rescue, or you can call for a rescue. Now, these are very important things, and we had a case which happened recently, I think last year, where we lost, where 2 employees were lost in one of the tanneries. They had entered into a pit, and unfortunately, there was a lot of hydrogen sulfide. There were 2 of them, and actually, I think they were not well prepared. When the first one did not come out, the second one went, and actually the 2 of them died because they did not have the self-contained breathing apparatus. So when you are rescuing somebody, make sure that you are well prepared. Chemical spills, it can be a very chemical spills normally occur. How are we prepared for chemical spills, especially in the data industry? Containment is very, very important. Do we have absorbent materials that can absorb the chemicals, or can we have dikes? For example, if you have a huge spill, you may not use an absorbent material, but you may need a dike. If it is an acid, are you able to know, or a base, what are you going to do? Neutralization, are you prepared? Because if you have a large amount of spill, probably tackling it can be a different issue. But if it's a small spill and you know it's an acid, that's why you have to be able to identify the substance you are working on, and then know what you're supposed to do. So when it comes to evacuation plans, the first thing is every organization should have
Dr. Douglas?
Yes?
I'm just reminding you that the time is 5 minutes left.
Okay, I'm almost done. Don't worry, I'm almost done. So you must have evacuation. Every organization should have an emergency evacuation plan. So technically, you can sound the alarm, stop all the work, and follow away from the wind, and do not use elevators. These are standard emergency evacuation plan. When it comes to chemical spills, the response can be a little bit different. you must again stop the work, move the personnel to a safer area, identify the substance. This is very important so that you can know what action to do, and then conduct the assessment and implement the controls. You can minimize the spill. That's the dikes we have talked about, having a material that can absorb. Then you can notify the supervisors, and then you can tell others if they are in danger. Then first aid and emergency response, I can skip that. And then the most important thing is a requirement: you must report every incident that has occurred in a workplace, must, and of course the types of incidents that can be reported. They can run from injuries, hazardous exposure, near misses, equipment malfunction, and environmental spills. I think, yeah, I've come to the end. There's much to talk about, but I tried to capture the most important things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Douglas, for the insightful presentations. Okay, for now, if any participants have any questions, you can ask for online and on-site participants. We will get maybe 1 or 2 questions. Anybody have a questions again? Or is it clear? Because I think maybe in the participants on-site and online, some of them are working in the lab and interacting with many of the chemical hazards, and Dr. Douglas just explained about the chemical safety and also the handling of the hazardous chemical. Maybe once again, I will ask, is there any questions from participants? Okay, I think Dr. Douglas just explained this presentation very clear. And once again, thank you, Dr. Douglas, for your presentations. And now, please still in the room, and we will be giving out the certifications. But because you cannot come into on-site, we will be giving the certificate by sharing through the share screen. So